This year, the City of Atlanta made history, electing 4 members of the City Council who are openly part of the LGBTQ community. Liliana Bakhtiari, Keisha Waits, Alex Wan, and Matt Westmoreland now represent 1 in 4 of the council's 16 members. Malik Brown, the director of the mayor's division of LGBTQ affairs, sat down recently with each of them to discuss the impact of this important moment.
When you were first elected, you were the first openly gay man and the only LGBTQ person at the time. What does it feel like today, coming into a council chamber of 3 other LGBTQ people? How does that feel?
I feel like all the work that I've done over the last, it's 3 decades now. No, but seriously, in the LGBTQ community, has been around just championing all the principles and values that we've been trying to champion around equality. To have all 4 of us on here means that that work is starting to pay off, and that voices that are so critical to our process, voices in our community that have not been heard and have not been given the opportunity to express themselves and be part of the dialogue, are now part of the dialogue.
So when I look at your resume, particularly around nonprofits, there's a particular focus on youth. Can you tell me why you're so passionate about youth?
I just really appreciate and fundamentally believe that they're our future. I also feel like they are so much more receptive. They are open-minded, they are curious. Let's take advantage of that. Let's tap into that and show them that anything is possible.
Good morning, Councilmember Bakhtiari. You are in your freshman term as a council member. Can you tell us how that feels?
I'm still getting used to it. When people say council member instead of Liliana, it's still very confusing and surreal, but I love it. It's chaotic, which my past prepped me for. This is where childhood trauma comes into play in like a positive way. It makes you really good at functioning in chaotic environments. But suddenly having the ability to have resources and be connected to people who can like move mountains in the city is a tremendous privilege, and it's really exciting. With
this recent inauguration, we swore in 4 openly LGBTQ people. Can you tell us how that feels?
Well, it's really nice to have people who understand it and who understand the challenges, and also now it's more of a discussion with our straight colleagues who all seem very eager to be the best allies they can be. So getting to talk about that, also getting to talk about my own non-binary and gender fluid status, and I'm growing into that. I'm going to be going through a lot of changes over the next few years. And having this caucus on council makes me feel much safer doing so, because not a lot of people understand that identities are stackable. Not a lot of other people understand gender fluidity or feeling in between or struggles with gender dysphoria. So 1, it makes me feel seen and makes me feel safe to talk about it. But at the same time, it also is an opportunity to have these conversations in this environment and from this platform and make it something that's more commonplace and make people understand that this is like anybody has the possibility, no matter your identity, to hold a position like this. So we get to make this conversation more mainstream, which makes a lot of other kids feel seen.
Can you tell us the change in the state and the city that you've seen as far as tolerance and accepting and even just where the LGBTQ community is versus when you started your service?
One of the changes that come to mind for me probably is when you look at our pride. I believe we probably have one of the largest pride celebrations in the country. And I've seen that grow over the years. And one of the things that I always talked about on the campaign trail is that my understanding of the needs and issues of the LGBTQ community don't come from reading the paper. I don't go to Pride to campaign. I celebrate Pride. I am Pride. And so it's a little bit different. And frankly, it's just seeing the evolution, having friends who were not as open-minded, having parents who were in fact homophobic, and watching them evolve over the years and their level of tolerance and the healing that's taken place in my family, I think is important. I have 2 siblings that are out. and open LGBTQ members. I had a brother that I lost several years ago in 1991 to the virus. And so hospital work is very dear and personal to someone like me. And so, again, I get to wake up every day and live my truth and, frankly, to do work that I really care about. And so that's exciting.
You've touched on this, and especially in 2022, we talk a lot about intersectional identities. Can you talk about the intersection of being a Black woman and a member of the LGBTQ community and how that shows up in your work?
The way that I describe that is that I am no stranger to alienation. I am no stranger to being underestimated and overlooked. And so as a triple minority, being a woman, first being an African-American woman, and then certainly, having the tag of the stigma for some, being LGBTQ is tough. And that's not an easy walk.
So on the eve of your inauguration, you came out. It was shocking to some people and I think heartwarming to most. Can you talk about what that felt like in that process and how it's been since?
Honestly, I wrestled with that decision. The fact that the content was so personal, the desire to live in a world where such pronouncements aren't necessary, fear that people would look at who I chose to be with and that would somehow impact how they viewed me or my public service. But honestly, part of what drove me to do it was looking at students, like the ones I had taught at Carver or the ones across Atlanta who maybe have ever struggled themselves with being authentic and real and truthful, either with themselves or with others. And if my public statements can help them in whatever they might be struggling with, I thought that was something that I definitely wanted to do.
So there was something that you said in your coming out statement that to the effect of you hope to live in a world where people don't have to do this anymore. Can you just build on that and tell me what you meant?
I hope we one day live in a world where people don't really look twice at two guys as they're holding hands, just as hopefully they won't look twice at an interracial couple doing the same thing. We're not there yet. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. I'm living into and coming into a world that's very different than it was for people 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm very fortunate about that. And I think we'll keep making progress.
Today is Rosa Parks Day. It's the anniversary of her birthday, and her action was about making sure that transit was available for everybody. It was about desegregating buses so that everybody could ride. And so I think that it's a great reminder as Transit Equity Day that transit is really about access. It's about making sure that people can get to jobs, can get to work, can get to school. And so her legacy is one that's not only about desegregation, but it's also about economic access. There's this incredible 1950s bus behind me, similar to the one that Rosa Parks sat down and wouldn't move on. She was an inspiration that individual people can make a difference, that individual people as part of a whole can really change America. Public transit is really the backbone of making sure that our economy can grow. Whether it's bus or it's rail, it's really the way that we are able to move our lives. And so I think the vision for equity in transit is making sure transit's everywhere, making sure it's affordable, making sure that it goes to the places that we need it to go.
Auburn Avenue was considered one of Atlanta's most famous streets, replete with successful Black-owned businesses, beautiful houses of worship, and an unparalleled nightlife, Sweet Auburn Historic District generated significant wealth prior to the Civil Rights Movement. A bustling thoroughfare, it was home to Atlanta Life Insurance Company and the nation's first successful black newspaper, the Atlanta Daily World. Renowned artists like Miles Davis and Gladys Knight graced the stage of the Royal Peacock. Sunday mornings meant Big Bethel AME Church and the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where both Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Jr. delivered powerful sermons. Civil rights activist and businessman John Wesley Dobbs coined the area Sweet Auburn. Dubbed its unofficial mayor, he was the grandfather of Atlanta's first black mayor, Maynard Jackson. Sweet Auburn Historic District received a National Historic Landmark designation in 1976.
This is Councilmember Dustin Hill, Chair of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. Welcome this afternoon to the committee meeting. We're hopeful that this is going to be the last fully remote Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, as the Council intends to go back to an in-person schedule on March 7th. And with that, I'll ask Ms. Lindo to please do the roll call.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. We have you present, of course. Councilmember Byron Amos. Councilmember Amos? Councilmember Michael Julian Bond? Councilmember Andrea L. Boone? Present. Councilmember Mary Norwood? Here. Councilmember Marcy Colley Overstreet? Councilmember Keisha Sean Waite? Present. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum of members present, but we are missing a few members. Overstreet present.
Bond is present. Thank you, Councilmember Bond. I believe I heard Councilmember Overstreet in the background as well.
Yes, Overstreet.
Okay. And with that, who are we missing still, Ms. Lindo? Mr. Amos?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. All right.
What's on present?
Please. Was that you, Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
All right. We're all present now, Ms. Lindo. Please reflect that. And also, please read a remote meeting statement.
Yes, good afternoon. Today's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee meeting will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 404-902-5066 and entering conference ID number 151945. This information was also provided on the Friday, February 25th, 2022 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website and accessible via the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, February 25th via the city's website at atlantacity.ga.iqn2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6022 yesterday between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. All amendments, substitutes, presentations, and other informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. And regarding the agenda, there's only going to be one minor change in order, so that won't require an amendment. We're going to take the one communication, which is an appointment. Mr. Gober has joined us today, so we're going to take that between public comment and before our presentations. So with that, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye, sir.
Waits, aye. Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Councilmember Overstreet, affirmative. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Agenda is adopted. I'll now make a motion to approve the meetings of the previous meeting. Is there a second?
Councilmember Waits.
Second by Councilmember Waits. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote?
Affirmative.
Overstreet, affirmative. Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bond, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved, and we'll now move on to public comment. Ms. Lindo, if you'll play that, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 2 public comments. One moment.
Meetings, council members and staff, have special meetings to the citizens of Atlanta, monitoring our government in action. Then Howard, being the advocate public policy analyst. On the agenda for the Neighborhood Planning Unit off meeting Wednesday is a presentation by Erica Collins of the Atlanta Police Foundation at Commerce Center, adjacent to the Andrew and Walter Young Family YMCA on Calverton Road. The location of that at-Commerce Center is fortuitous in that it bolsters the work that has been done for years by that YMCA for the young folks in our community. We are also thankful for the period of time when that Y hosted NPUR meetings in its less productive days. But NPUR is on the rise again, as noted by the current Chairperson Donovan Todd when he announced this is a new day at Neighborhood Planning Unit R. So join us as NPUR moves from stalemate to progress, as noted by the at-Promise presentation on the NPUR agenda, as well as the agenda presentation on urban planning by Carter Coleman. Call NPUR at 402-979-6787. Call NPUR at 402-979-6787.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. I am a soulful spiritual being. I have no need for religion. I'm calling the Public Safety Committee to ask that my rights be heard. I had a problem with a neighbor for over 15 months. The neighbor lived next door with pet bulls. Don't have a fence. Don't allow the dog to have a leash. I took this interest up and give it to my District 11 representative, Ms. Overstreet. I recently had talked to a case we had February the 9th. A judge found the case over. The Assistant Solicitor General, Dina Gardner, said we have any more problems, submit that information. On Thursday, the 24th, I gave her more pictures of the dog without leash. There were 2 of the pet bulls again. This has been going on for 15 months. I talked to Chief Chill. I talked to Major Tyrus. I had recently had an officer, Carter, to come out on Thursday. And what did Carter say? Who is the one you've been talking to? We know about you. We don't heard about you. What you want me to do? This is the officer Carter tell me when he come by to give me the report authority. Or apparently the court can't get in the person that want to submit and put a leash on a dog, secure the dog. Apparently, they even the major tires. Now you got chief of police black office, and your leadership is not being heard by your representation. And I ask this council, that Brother Anthony Muhammad, I need 2 members of council, Caucasian and the members that look like me, to speak up on behalf of my interests and my family. We shouldn't be dealing with dogs.
That concludes our public comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We'll move on to communications. Have we confirmed that Mr. Gober is on the line with us?
Yes, he is.
Okay, you'll go ahead and read that in.
That's 22C 5027. This is a communication from Councilmember Mary Norwood, District 8, appointing Mr. Zach Gober to serve as a member of the Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, ATAC 3.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lindo. Mr. Gober, are you with us? Mr. Gober?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your willingness to serve. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on ATAC 3.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Zach Gober. I've been chairman of MPUC for roughly 5 years, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Northwest area. My business is commercial real estate brokerage, so I'm involved in trying to improve commercial corridors, infrastructure, living, working daily as my day job. And I've had roles on the Beltline. I've had roles on certain CIDs and tax allocation districts. And then recently, regarding ATAC, we've had some neighbors of MPUC that have been kind of frustrated with what they've seen lately in certain commercial establishments that I thought I needed to get involved in. So I've had a lot of communication over the past year with owners of commercial real estate, neighbors, activists, people involved. So I'm just trying to do my part.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gober, and very thankful for your service at MPUC, which is, of course, partially in District 9, the rest of District 8, and to the Ridgewood Heights neighborhood, and to all of the items you named that you've dedicated some of your time to our city for. So with that, again, thank you, and I know this is Councilmember Norwood's appointment who is on this committee, so Councilmember Norwood, if you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Mr. Gober will serve this committee very well, as he has served the city very well. So I make a motion to approve.
And I will second that motion. Please prepare the vote. Motion by Norwood, second by Hillis.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote?
Aye.
Waits, aye. Councilmember Overstreet, how do you vote? Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bond, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Right, that is 7 yeas, 0 nays. You are confirmed, and this will go towards the Committee on Council, which you will not need to appear again at, and then on to the full council next Monday. So again, thank you for your service, Mr. Gober, and that includes that item. So thank you.
Oh, Council, thank you for all you do. We really appreciate it.
All right, and we will now go to our presentations. And the first up is Atlanta Police Department bi-weekly update. And I believe our presenter today is Deputy Chief Shearbaum. Deputy Chief Shearbaum, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hillis, members of the committee. Deputy Chief Shearbaum presenting on behalf of Chief Bryan and the women and men of the Atlanta Police Department. Mr. Chairman, first going to give our crime overview, followed by report out items that were requested at the last two committee meetings, and then Director Arnold from our E911 center will then follow me to provide the presentation based on E911 operations that was requested by this body.
All right, sounds like a plan. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Yes, sir. Ms. Little, if we could go to slide 2, please, the 2022 Colvin report. This will reflect our crime statistics ending in week 7, which will be Colvin week 7, February the 19th. I'm going to highlight a few items here. As you can see, overall, year-to-date, crime is trending down at 7% over this time last year in the city. We're showing a 9% reduction in property crimes with a 9% increase around crimes against persons. Continue to be concerned with the number of homicides occurring in the city. The majority of those, the highest concentration, are escalating disputes where a handgun is involved. These disputes are starting from very minor incidences, as we've reported before, escalated quickly where a firearm is produced and then used. The occurrence of where these locations are happening is in apartment complexes in the city, both inside and immediately outside of the apartment building. As you can see from the increase in rapes, that is also a concern of the department.
They need to send them something else because I don't have
two important notes with that particular crime stat is the significant majority of those perpetrators are known to the victim of the crime. There is some association there, be a family member, someone at the school, someone that has been met through a dating engagement constitutes a vast majority of those. We also are continuing with a number of those, almost 50% being delayed reports to the police department, which does hinder the investigation. However, we are encouraged that relationships, people in trusted positions, are encouraging victims to come forward in these crimes, which makes the event known to us that we can pursue justice on part of the victim. When we do look back, Mr. Chairman, at the previous years, if you look at 2019, which is the most recent year without any type of impact to the social infrastructure of the city, you will find that the numbers are very, very closely aligned, almost spot on with the 2019, with hardly any deviation from the numbers that you would have seen in that year. The property crimes continue to constitute 69% of the crimes in the city. I'd like to bring a couple points to those. We're seeing patterns where groups of individuals, crews are engaged in those crimes, from robberies to car break-ins and car thefts. On our social media, we are highlighting a number of the tools that we're employing to be able to combat those crews. We're working closely with our neighboring jurisdictions, the Georgia State Patrol, the Fulton County Sheriff's Department, East Point, DeKalb County. Cobb County, you will see us deploying resources, our area unit, our technology resources to be able to combat those individuals and bring them to justice. We highlight that in our social media and show how we're able to arrest those individuals by still accounting for the safety of the community that those apprehensions are occurring in, as well as individuals we're seeking to take into custody. We are still continuing with recidivists, repeat offenders, making up a significant portion of the individuals we arrested. I want to bring one to your note. There's Mr. Tavarius Says was arrested by this department December of last year. He was inside of a stolen vehicle and was wanted by this department on an aggravated battery charge. He was released very shortly thereafter in December, and since that point in time, we believe he has committed 20 burglaries in the city, targeting 4 of our 6 zones, primarily commercial establishments. This morning, our fugitive unit was able to take Mr. Says into custody as he was traveling through the city during a traffic stop. He was taken into custody without any injury to any citizens. We were concerned about that apprehension. Mr. Says was noted to be in possession of firearms on his Instagram when we were monitoring him. 20 businesses in this city were targeted by this individual. We will be having more on our social media and our media release as we highlight the impact he's had in the business community, but we're very proud of the investigators and their work identifying him and bringing him into custody. He was on probation at the time of his December arrest, and we're really working closely with community supervision and the prosecuting entity to ensure that Mr. Says is held accountable for the spree of burglaries that he's committed over the last 60 days. Also, there's been focus on groups that are breaking into apartment complexes where multiple vehicles are broken into. We have issued arrest warrants for 2 individuals that have committed that offense at 1374 Murphy Avenue, where 22 vehicles were broken into. Those warrants have been issued, and we have information that 1 individual has been taken in custody. We're not releasing the names at this point, as we intend to forward that investigation to others that may be involved with that group, as well as any fencing locations that may be occurring with the property that was stolen during those car break-ins. If you look across the 6 zones, we see reductions citywide in 4 of our zones, with Zone 2 being the highest reduction at down 29% so far year to date. With the only the 3 zones that are up are Zone 1, Zone 3, as well as Zone 5, which are 5%, and then 2%, and then 2% respectively for each of those. Car thefts, we continue to put forward our public education campaign around car thefts, where year to date, 52% of the vehicles stolen in the city were running at the time that theft occurred, and that's particularly prevalent around locations such as dry cleaners where food is being picked up, where there is a need to run in and out quickly for those businesses and establishments. We just ask citizens and the proprietors of these businesses to encourage safe parking while you're going inside to conduct your business, even as short as it may be. We understand that these victims have probably done this as a time-saving measure many times prior before there being a theft, and we're just going to continue to encourage our public education incentive initiatives around that. Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to some items for follow-up that were proposed by the committee at the January 24th as well as the February 14th presentation. There was a request for increased traffic patrol in the Zone 1 area. Checking those statistics this morning, we're showing in the 28-day period that the traffic stops in the Zone 1 area as well as the citations has increased. The overall traffic stops having increased 47% in that area. There was also an inquiry related to the department's efforts to recruit individuals to serve on a park patrol in a recapture position. We continue to seek individuals who would be interested in doing that role. Right now, we still stand at approximately 2 individuals that have expressed interest in serving that capacity. Presently, Chief Bryan is looking at other means of incentivizing or expanding the recapture program to encourage other individuals to join that initiative. However, I do want to stress this as a point. Both as a police commander, as an individual that regularly visits parks within the city, as a resident, the park patrol, when one is created, is not the means and the primary means, nor the sole means. The department is working closely with Parks and Recreation to ensure the safety of our public spaces, of our green spaces. Each week, each day, the department is using its mounted patrol, its bicycle patrols from the zones, as well as the PAP Force, Crime Suppression Unit, and zone-related sources, as well as from our Community Services Division, to ensure that we have police presence within our parks. Those officers are engaged there on a weekly basis, working closely with the civilian management of the parks, as well as Parks and Recreation, to ensure that we are contributing to the safety plan of our public spaces. We also encourage any citizen, anytime they see conduct in a park, behavior that seems unsafe, that may appear to be illegal or suspicious, to please call 911. We will ensure those resources are quickly deployed to that area to address anything that may be occurring and allay any suspicion or concern of the caller. Also, there was an inquiry regarding beat realignment. Traditionally, this department conducts an assessment of the zone and beat boundaries every 5 years. The last one occurring in 2018 when the assessment was done by Georgia Tech. And then we acted upon those adjustments in 2019. Chief Bryant has asked that we move that time frame closer, not to wait for another 5 years as we see the growth occurring in the city. He has asked us to reach out to Georgia Tech to start laying the groundwork to conduct another assessment this year in 2022, which we are proceeding forward on that, and we'll have an appropriate report out to this body in the future. Mr. Chairman, you had inquired regarding certain hiring parameters for the period of time of February 2021 through February 2022. We're going to be providing those in writing as we're still building out the basis for disqualification under the fourth question. But I do want to go ahead and provide those verbally for this body, but you will be receiving those in writing this week. Through Taleo, in the period of time that was requested, the department there were 3,594 applications that were submitted for a sworn position within the police department. Those that move to us, and that's where there will be those that are disqualifications in Taleo, meaning we will never see that applicant. So they're removed for a variety of reasons that HR would remove them before they come to us. Once the packets come to us, then we removed another 608. We removed 686 individuals from the process and deemed them not suitable for hire within the police department, or they were disqualified for other reasons. During that period of time, we made offers to 146 individuals to become sworn members of the police department. During that same period of time, we hired 147. I want to note on those two numbers, individuals hired in that 12-month period may have received their offer in the preceding weeks, months prior to the 12-month window you had inquired about. And then individuals will receive, maybe hired beyond February, who received their offer of employment during the 12-month period that you asked about. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, that would bring us current upon the outstanding request of the committee. I can answer any questions now, or we can proceed to Director Arnold or the report out, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I'd like to take questions related to your presentation and your follow-ups first. I'll kick us off, I guess. Going back to the stats, overall crime is down, but as you mentioned, crimes against persons, violent crimes are up. So what specific efforts have we implemented in the past year, past few months, whatever, to specifically target the increase in violent crime?
Yes, so there was a number of measures undertaken by Chief Bryant last year, particularly at the mid-year point, when we revised our COBRA process, the way that we looked at crime, the way we're reporting out on crime, and changing the 28-day and the 7-day mirror to be the previous 28 days and 7 days from the year ago. Last year, we also proceeded with centralizing our investigative initiatives, bringing individuals into one division because we were noting that individuals engaged in stealing of vehicles, breaking into vehicles, committing robberies were oftentimes being committed by the same groups and individuals, and enhance the intelligence sharing in that area. We were also had a renewed focus on problematic clubs and nuisance properties, and the collaborative effort between the police department, other city entities, driven by the city solicitor's office targeting those locations, had a contributing factor to that. We also saw the recreation of task forces occurring, as well as focus from the district attorney's office on prosecuting the recidivists and the repeat offenders. There are a number of other initiatives that we can point to last year, but I would say that the centralization of our investigations and the growing of our partnerships are key contributors to that. We also saw during that same period of time that the use of our technology through the helicopters, the license plate readers, and as well as the camera systems in more of a focused area allowed us to be able to ensure that all of the departments, areas of the departments were receiving that information as we deployed personnel to the field, that they were more effective being in the right places and engaging the right individuals.
Thank you for that. And I'll just say that, the fact of being the chairman of this committee, I sat on the Repeat Offenders Commission. This, of course, is a handful of city representatives and county representatives. We had our first meeting, I believe, last week or the week before. It was a very, very promising conversation. Looking forward to some changes that the DA has ongoing, the sheriff, and our other partners. So looking forward to some improvement there when it comes to repeat offenders, especially repeat violent offenders. Next question is, I've noticed in the stats and just noticed in my day-to-day hearing from people out in the neighborhoods, things like that, that burglaries have spiked again. I seem to be hearing more burglaries just in the past few days than I have in the past probably 6 months. But do we have a handle on what has contributed to that, or is it people getting back to work and being outside of their house, or what say you about that?
Certainly, as you'll notice in the presentation, we were able to arrest this morning an individual responsible for 20 burglaries in the city, and his impact was felt across 4 zones and was impacted primarily mom and pop businesses within the city that contribute to our culture and what we find in our neighborhoods. What we see when we have burglars loose, they tend to be, Mr. Chairman, recidivists who have been released from prison or some type of detention within a relatively short period of time. So our repeat offender tracking unit is tracking individuals that may be being released back to the area, may be coming to Atlanta upon point of release, and ensuring that our officers are equipped with the information as well as the investigative units that we have involved. What tends to be pushing, what we're now seeing, is our commercial burglaries, which would not relate back to individuals leaving home. We do believe that we are tracking a couple other repeat offenders that we've identified as a top 5 group of burglars operating in the city. That has been a focus of our COBRA and the efforts of the department to apprehend them. But in some cases, this is an organized effort to commit burglaries against commercial facilities, and some of them it can be just one person, like Mr. Stays, who was able to, just one individual alone, we've been able to connect to 20. But recidivism is the core of this particular group. This individuals committing burglaries tend to have engaged in that conduct in the past. But we have been receiving reports the last few Krobers to show that our burglary unit has focused on the individuals, and we believe we've identified crews that are working in the area, especially around storage facilities, and do have outstanding warrants for individuals that potentially may be active, but not yet in the custody of law enforcement.
Thank you for that. And my last question, and then I'll defer to my colleagues, but of course we've seen on the news this week and last week what is perceived to be a return to the street racing antics in the city of Atlanta. I don't know if it's, the warmer weather is upon us, or what the contributing factor is, but how is APD pivoting, maybe with our partners, Fulton County and GSP, to address the street racing issue? Because the one that has been in the news the most is the 10th and Piedmont issue, and that happened two weekends in a row. So what is APD doing to pivot and address this as it seems to be rising once again?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Our approach is twofold. Currently, we have investigators in our Homeland Security Unit. This is their sole focus, identifying individuals that not only were active for 2 weekends at 10th and Piedmont, damaging the crosswalks at that location, but also any individuals that believe, for whatever reason, that they're welcome to return to the city to engage in this activity. We had great success through the fall and the winter. A number of individuals were arrested through the Atlanta Police Department's efforts, as well as our partners. We want to send a strong message that this type of activity is not going to be tolerated. We believe our investigators have strong leads from the last weekends. We are investigating this from was it targeting that intersection, or was this just a return of street racers from the area? We're going to make sure that we fully investigate both of those. But we are going to hold whoever committed those acts accountable once they're identified. Secondly, we are working with our neighboring jurisdictions to ensure that we're deploying resources into the area intelligence believes this activity may be occurring. So as our investigators work, we will have elevated resources on the ground. We're ensuring that our cameras and our license plate readers are properly deployed, that they're being monitored, and that we have resources on the ground, both from Atlanta, the Georgia State Patrol, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County, as well as our air assets are ready to engage those that may return. But I'm pretty confident, Mr. Chairman, that we will be able to identify the individuals, or at least get the vehicles that were involved the last 2 weekends, and ensure that accountability on behalf of the citizens is handed out.
All right, thank you for that, Deputy Chief. Move on to my colleagues' questions. If you have a question, please indicate with your speaker button. And I see first we have Councilmember Boone. Councilmember Boone, are you with us? Councilmember Boone? We'll come back to her. Are there any other questions from my colleagues on the general crime presentation from Deputy Chief Sherbon? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed on to the 911 presentation. Deputy Chief.
Yes, Ms. Linda, if we can bring Director Arnold on, please. I believe she'll be giving this presentation. And we'll be going to slide 4.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Director.
Hello. If you can go to the next slide for me, please. And one more slide. All right. Good afternoon. The numbers that are represented on this slide depict our staffing numbers up to date. As it relates to staffing, our challenges are mainly centered around recruitment and retention. We currently have 32 Dispatcher 1 vacancies. And just for a point of clarity, Dispatcher 1 is the position that all employees are hired under. This number will consistently change as they move through approximately 6 to 7 months of training, and they are then classified as Dispatcher 2, and a Dispatcher 1 position becomes open again. In 2021, we hired 43 dispatchers at an attrition rate of 23. Of the 23 that resigned or retired, 13 of them were assigned to our evening watch. The evening shift hours are 1,500 to 2,300 hours. Most employees cited a lack of work or life balance or the need to care for family as their reason for resigning. To address attrition from that standpoint, we've reached out to our watch reps, and we have been working together on an alternative scheduling option that will allow us to staff our center and also provide more work-life balance for employees. Our short-term staffing plan is, of course, we have part-time employees. We have 6 of them currently working. We have 2 in a background process preparing to return in a part-time status. We have 5 employees that work in our center post-retirement as part of the 520 program. And then along with that, we're working with the watch representatives to make sure that we have a direct connection with the team and leadership. As a result of those meetings, we have included interpersonal communication training for supervisors next month. And we're also working to include training dealing with stress and mental health in our training curriculum. Our long-term plans for staffing include completing a recruitment and retention incentive. Some of the surrounding metro agencies have not only introduced signing bonuses to increase their hiring, they have also included retention incentives for those employees that have remained loyal and dedicated to their agencies. In our center, we have several employees with 10, 15, and 30-plus years of experience. And they have expressed that they feel that we focused a lot on recruitment and not enough on retention. We would also like to consider an increased shift differential for employees that work 1,500 to 2,300 hours. This is the shift that takes the bulk of the calls for the center. They spend the afternoon and the evening at work. And also, as stated earlier, this is the hardest shift to staff. So an increase in that shift differential may help shore up some interest in this shift. And lastly, we would like to reassess the pay study that was completed in 2020 to ensure that our pay is still competitive to centers our size. Following COVID, resignations from public safety careers, and the influx of work-from-home call center opportunities, many other agencies increased their salaries to become more competitive with us. Pay study to ensure that we remain competitive will assist with our long-term hiring plans. And as we continue to work towards improving technology and becoming more employee-focused and employee-driven, hopefully we can overcome those staffing challenges. Are there any questions or concerns for me?
Thank you, Director. I think this lays it out pretty well as some of the challenges and some of the changes that need to be made as far as staffing goes. And I'll be glad to follow up with you and get some deeper perspective on these offline as to some of what would be the best measures to take. So I may circle, if you'll stay on, I may circle back around to the staffing issues, but I was told we also have DEEM on the line. So I'd like to hear from them as to where we are with the infrastructure challenges, with the building itself, the power supply, but more importantly, the UPS system, which is my understanding is actually not the landholders' responsibility, it's our responsibility, but it's continued to fail multiple times. So I'd like to hear from Dean where we are, again, both from the building's power and our backup power, and any other challenges we're having there. Is Dean on the line and unmuted, Ms. Lindo? Ms. Lindo, are you with us?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I was muted. We're checking. He is on the line and he should be unmuted.
Okay. Good afternoon, community members. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, community members. This is, again, Mr. Commissioner Santil. I'm just going to give you a quick update on some of the infrastructure needs that are going on at the 911 Center. This is an extensive project, a $3.6 million project that includes a design and construction scope. The project will assess and replace HVAC, electrical, and mechanical equipment, including upgrading electrical room gear and other needed infrastructure. The work also includes an overhaul of the building's chiller. The initial assessment of the electrical system has been completed. The UPS system was faulty during this blip that happened a few weeks ago, but that has been repaired as well. But all that is included in the complete overhaul of this complete project. The main power to the building is stable. The landlord has addressed that particular need, and that we are also completing the repairs to our existing generator. So as we stand right now, everything is going according to plan. The completion of the design and mechanical systems will be done in July. Now, this is an extensive project. The construction actually begins in August of this year, and we will complete the construction and commissioning in May 2023.
Okay. And just repeat that last line. I missed the overall time frame is to be completed.
The complete construction, yes. The complete construction and commissioning will be in May 2023.
And this is done via an emergency procurement, or what's the means?
This is a contract. This is a contract. We put out for bids. We're a part of our JOC program, our job order contracting program. So it's already in place. The notice to proceed has already started. The design is underway. The electrical systems have been assessed. That portion of the project has been completed, and now we are in the design progress right now.
Okay. But as we stand right now, the UPS backup system, it has been repaired.
That works. Yes,
currently
that has been repaired. Yep, it has been repaired and stable.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Santil. Any other questions about the 911 center, either staffing issues that the director presented or the infrastructure issues? If you're online, you can hit your speaker button, or if you're not online, you can just let me know you want to speak. If not, we'll move on.
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Vaughn, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Director and Deputy Chief Sheriff, for your very thorough presentations today. My question about the 911 Center is, even though you've given us an up-to-date report on the status of the current building, are you all looking at alternative locations to stand up or to develop in lieu of the fact that I think it's still 10 years on this contract? Are you all looking at maybe or at the airport, or what are some of the alternatives you are looking at?
Good afternoon. The airport is the most feasible backup location. The issue that we had with the airport is the telephone lines, and we are working with AT&T. They're currently creating the trunk lines that we need to be able to transfer and use the airport if needed. That's about a 6-month or better process. We're also working on the Viper upgrade, which is in legislation. Which is currently being reviewed by the city and AT&T attorneys. Remy may have a better update on buildings outside of that one.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you have, Councilmember Vaughn?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions from colleagues? All right. Thank you all very much for those presentations and updates from APD and 911 and Dean.
Mr. Chairman, this is Councilmember Boone.
Yes, Councilmember Boone.
Yes, I was muted earlier. Before we move on, I want to give a special thank you to, congratulations to Deputy Chief Celeste Murphy, who will be making history, becoming the first chief of police, I believe, in the city of Chattanooga. She has been a dedicated and diligent member of the APD family and the city of Atlanta, and recently tackled so many issues with the homeless community. So I definitely want to let her know how much the city of Atlanta has valued her great service. That's Deputy Chief Celeste Murphy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Councilmember Boone, and I echo that and those congratulations and thanks for her many years of service to our city, and wish her the best as she moves just a little further north to Chattanooga. So congratulations again. Councilmember Overstreet.
Thanks. I'm just chiming in. I will truly miss working with her, and that's what happens. When you're a light in the community, everyone wants a piece, and I'm just thankful that we had the opportunity to work with her, and now she gets to share her talent on a whole nother level and just trailblazing the way for other great officers, and I really appreciate her service to Atlanta, and I wish her well.
Thank you, Councilmember Overstreet. Any other speakers?
Just want to add my congratulations to Deputy Chief Murphy. Always a consummate professional, and Chattanooga's gain is tremendous, and so want to say congratulations to her as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Bond. Any other colleagues wishing to make a statement or ask a question of APD? All right, we will move on. Our next presentation is from the Atlanta Citizen Review Board. I believe we have the Executive Director, Samuel Reed, with us. Mr. Reed, are you with us?
Yes, good afternoon. Samuel Reed. Let's say good afternoon to Chair Hillis, Vice Chair Amos, committee members, Mayor Dickens, and his administration, citizens of Atlanta. I'm the Executive Director of the Atlanta Citizen Review Board. Since this is my first time before some of you, I will very briefly explain that I've been the Executive Director of the ACRB since 2012. Since that time, we have become a national model in the civilian oversight of law enforcement arena. We achieved this because of the hard work and dedication of the ACRB board members and staff, and the continued support of the Atlanta City Council and the mayor's administrations over the years. Most importantly, our success is due to the citizens' trust that the agency is working to hold officers accountable as needed. We can go to the next slide, please. The ACRB is an independent investigative agency authorized to receive, investigate, mediate, and adjudicate citizens' complaints against Atlanta police and corrections officers. We do our work fairly, thoroughly, and independently with integrity. Our goal is to increase citizens' confidence in policing by having the best officers serving the community, and we do this through promoting officer accountability. If we could go to slide 3. There are two ways that we approach our work in ACRB. Our reactive work focuses on addressing harm caused to an individual citizen and accountability for individual officers. This work usually addresses individual actions with an emphasis on discipline. Our proactive work focuses on reducing the likelihood of harm to citizens. This work focuses on systemic issues and those areas where large numbers of citizens and officers can be impacted. These areas involve culture and behavioral modifications, increased community understanding of law enforcement, and promote citizen empowerment. One of our goals is to continue to increase our proactive work. As the saying goes, prevention is worth a pound of cure. We'll go to slide 4, please. We're talking on slide 4 about our organizational chart. The ACRB is led by a board of citizens appointed by various entities that reflect the diversity of Atlanta. The board makes the decisions on the staff complaint investigations. It should be noted that there are times where board members are called to read between 300 and 500 pages a month to prepare for the reviews of complaint investigations. There's no doubt that this is one of the hardest working boards in the city. Then we have our city staff, who is responsible for the day-to-day operations, including investigations, mediations, community engagement, and education. On slide 5, you'll see the members of our board. The board recently elected new officers for 2022. Prior to the election, Ms. Cecilia Houston Torrance served as the chair for 3.5 years. Her service as chair was critical in moving the agency forward. She was instrumental in helping the agency secure new office space on the first floor of the City Hall Tower, which we hope to move in to sometime this year. As far as I know, we should still be on schedule to move to the first floor from the 9th floor in the second quarter of this year, which will be the third quarter of the fiscal year 23. Now, during the February meeting, Ms. Tracy McDaniel was elected as the chair, Ms. Tamara Orange was elected as vice chair, and Dr. Michael Turner was elected as secretary. On the left side of the screen, you will see the members of the board. We'll go to the next slide, slide 6. Since our last presentation to the committee, we received a new board member, Dallas Shake. Mr. Shake's appointment came in December under past council president Felicia Moore. He's a retired APD officer with 27 years of faithful service to the community. As it relates to Mr. Shake's appointment, the city council president's appointment must have law enforcement experience, and Mr. Shake definitely has that for 27 years. We go to slide 7. I want to get into our complaint data for the second quarter of FY23. Before I get into that second quarter, and this will be on slide 8, before I get into the second quarter FY23 data, I want to speak briefly to our jurisdictional authority for the benefit of the citizens who may have a concern, a question, or complaint about officers, Atlanta Police and Corrections officers. On slide 8, in order to investigate a complaint, the following must be considered. It must involve an Atlanta Police or Corrections officer, must be filed within 365 days from the date of the encounter, must be signed unless the person is filing anonymously. The citizen can file by phone, website, email, or in person, and the agency can self-initiate investigations involving discharge of a firearm, stun gun, taser, in a manner that results in a death or serious bodily injury where a person has died or sustained serious bodily injury while in police custody, in all incidents of an officer-involved death. On slide 9, the agency accepts allegations involving abuse of authority, abuse of language, appropriate action required, conduct, discrimination, discriminatory references, failing to provide identification, false arrest, false imprisonment, harassment, retaliation, use of excessive force involving serious bodily injury or death, and then we have a catch-all phrase to where if an officer has an occurrence with an officer if a citizen has an occurrence with an officer that results in a complaint or a violation, we can accept those complaints as well. We can go to slide 10, please. Now I want to get into the second quarter data. The ACRB received 36 complaints. 14 were assigned to full investigation. 15 were dismissed. Nearly all of the dismissals were because of the complaints involved officers from other jurisdictions. 7 complaints that could go to investigations were awaiting signed complaint or more information. APD zones 1, 2, and 5 received 71% of the complaints. That was 15 complaints total. Council districts 3, 9, 11, and 12 received 61% of the complaints, and that represents 13 for that quarter. The staff closed 16 investigations, and at the end of the second quarter, we had 21 complaints open, and the investigative timeline was 142 days. If we go to the next slide, the top 3 allegations received during the quarter were violations of the standard operating procedures, which typically involved failure to complete records, failure to render aid, illegal search and seizure. And then we had our second category was excessive force, and the third was conduct involving unprofessionalism and rudeness. If we could go to slide 12. For the quarter, the agency was notified of 2 officer-involved shootings, and the type of excessive force reported in complaints involved guns drawn and pointed at citizens, forcible grabs, pushing, slamming, and a person being shot. On the next slide, slide 13, I'll speak to the data related to the board operation. The board held 3 board meetings and adjudicated 11 complaints involving 42 allegations. The board sustained 38% of the allegations, and currently the board has 19 complaints awaiting a hearing. During the quarter, the ACRB did not receive any responses from the APD related to sustained ACRB allegations. We followed up with the APD. Many of those complaints are still in investigations by the Office of Professional Standards. So we hope to have those response letters soon. On our next slide would be our community outreach. Before I move to our community outreach, let's go to slide 14. I want to mention a new pilot program that the ACRB is doing. We're moving toward a review panel process for the reviews of the complaint investigations. Panel reviews will allow the agency to address one of the concerns that citizens have regarding length of time for a complaint to move through the ACRB process. None of the thoroughness, preparedness, or fairness will be impacted by this change. However, efficiency, flexibility, and ability to request an appeal of the review panel decisions are added. On the slide, you'll see where our current operation on the left side of the screen has a full board review of 15 members, and it's scheduled monthly, and no ability to request an appeal of the board's decision. Under this project that we're undertaking, the review panel would consist of between 3 to 5 members who would make the decision. It will allow for flexible scheduling, and the ability to request an appeal of the review panel decision to the full board. We believe that this will allow us to process complaints faster, deal with board members' flexibility, and most importantly, provide this opportunity for citizens or officers to appeal to the full board for a reconsideration of the decision, of the review panel's decision. We go to slide 16. The ACRB participated in 30 community events during the quarter, from our presence at local farmers markets and malls to various community events. We also continue to distribute our materials to various locations throughout the city. If we look at slide 17, during the quarter, we held a 6-part series titled Meet the Board Members on our podcast, Tuesday Night Talks. Tuesday Night Talks is another opportunity where we try to present information to the citizens through a podcast, and they can contact us through the podcast. And during the second quarter, the Meet the Board Members was that opportunity for citizens to be able to understand who sits on the board, their motivations for sitting on the board, and how they go about doing their business when they're making their decisions. We also attended Clippers and Cops and continued our social media engagement and our ACRB vehicle visibility program. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. If you go to slide 18, we're coming up on spring, and our community engagement activities will increase significantly. For community members, for city council members, if you or your organization would like the ACRB to participate in a community event, please contact the ACRB at 404-865-8622. And as always, if you have a complaint, concern, or question about the actions of an Atlanta police or corrections officer, contact the ACRB at 404-865-8622. We're here to help you. With that, that will end my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to present. If you have any questions, I'll take them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Reed. Colleagues, any questions? All right. Thank you again for the quarterly report, Director Reed, and appreciate your service to the city.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Bond.
I have a question of APD that I forgot to ask.
Okay. Deputy Chief Shearbaum, are you still with us? Ms. Lindo, can we check and see if Deputy Chief Shearbaum is still on the line?
Mr. Chairman, this is Deputy Chief Shearbaum.
Yes, Councilmember Bond had a question for you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Bond.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chief. I just want to follow up complaints and a media report that I saw on these young persons on scooters committing crimes, I think primarily in the kind of Grant Park vicinity area. Is there anything that you can expound upon on that phenomenon?
Councilmember, I do know that in 3 or 4 of our zones, the zone commanders are developing strategies around crimes that are being committed on scooters. We do see individuals that may be committing property crimes, in some cases robberies, that are using those to attempt to flee. And we have made arrests on individuals attempting to do so. So it is occurring. We can provide information to this body that's requested on the number of occurrences that may be happening, time of day, geographic area, anything that may help to inform. But yes, in certain areas of the city, individuals are attempting to utilize those modes of transportation in their criminal activity.
I guess at your next report, could you give us an update on that?
We can, sir.
Just one other question, and you may not know the answer, but as I recall, when we were deciding whether or not we were going to allow scooters to be, operate in Atlanta, I think they're supposed to share their data of who's using them. Is that that your understanding? I mean, that's what I recall. I don't know if anybody else recalls that, but I think that might have been a way to kind of trace or track people through the, I guess the credit card and the time, that it was in use or whatever, the GPS information, close to the crime or what have you. I don't know, but if you can find that answer when you make the report, I would appreciate it.
Will do, Councilmember.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Vaughn. That's all you have?
Yes.
All right. We'll now move on to our third and final report of this committee meeting, and that is the PAD, Police Alternatives and Diversion quarterly report. We have Executive Director Mogi Macias with us.
Hello, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the team at PAD. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, please proceed.
All right, thank you. Well, I wanted to spend a little bit of time in my presentation to give a little background on PAD, more than I usually might, just in acknowledgement of new and returning council members for this year. So I appreciate your patience for the folks that know us and love us. So if we could go to slide 2. You'll see here our team has grown substantially over the last year. We, as I'll discuss, we have expanded our services from providing pre-arrest diversion services to the Atlanta Police Department, to MARTA, and currently to also Georgia Tech Police Department, to also include responding to community referrals through 311. And of course, as we have done since we launched in 2017, we provide care navigation services and direct support, which includes emergency shelter support, transportation assistance, food assistance, assistance with documentation, cell phone assistance, etc. We can go to slide 3, please. Just because we get this question a lot because we have such a close partnership with both the city and the county, just as an overview of our agency, we are an independent nonprofit. We have an MOU with both the city and the county, and we also, we receive financial support from both jurisdictions as well as some federal dollars through the county and private funders. But we are now available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'd like to note that these hours align with the 311 call center hours, but it was an expansion from our previous hours. So we get the question often about whether, we're going to be 24/7. I think there's some real opportunity for diversions in particular being available 24/7 with the diversion center that is in planning. I just want to thank this committee and the council at large for the support that y'all have already shown to this collaboration, which PAD is a part of. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the city and the county and Grady and other partners as we try and get that online. But for now, we are available in the same hours as 311. We operate out of South Downtown. There's an open invitation to any council member who would like to come visit our office. It feels different when you actually meet the team and get to see where we work out of. So we are right across from the Atlanta City Detention Center at 254 Peachtree Street. So please, reach out to us and let us know if you'd like to come for a visit. I am, as you know, the executive director, and our board chair is municipal court judge, retired Judge DeVoe. Slide 4, please. So just a quick timeline of our development. We came out of a community campaign back in 2013, 2014. I know there are some folks here that remember that process. And it was really designed to address what community members were identifying as, a real gap in the services and resources that community members had access to, at the same time as the reality that oftentimes, police were the first involved in situations related to mental health, substance use, or extreme poverty. and didn't really have another option. You know, we're really in the position of needing to address the concern, but really only having the ability to make a physical arrest and book folks. And that may be for, you know, anything from pedestrian in the roadway to criminal trespass to public urination, you know, things that we see often and that we know are most often related to people simply surviving or experiencing a mental health concern or substance use issue. So our initiative came out of the campaign to really find solutions instead of using a punitive response. And, you know, we've had long time support from this body in order to develop something that was really, you know, taking kind of what was so promising from other places around the country and bringing it home to Atlanta and making it our own. We have been providing pre-arrest diversion services to the Atlanta Police Department since 2017, and I'll spend a little more time in just a moment that kind of walks you through how that process works as a refresher. But in 2020, we were approved by City Council to expand to include an option for community members to contact us directly. And that was a result in part to all of the public will and energy around the country and locally in 2020 around having more options. And to the fact that in every neighborhood meeting we have ever gone to, there is at least one person who says, well, can't we just call you directly? If we know it's not a police concern, can we call you directly? And starting in 2021, we've been able to start saying, yes, you can. You can contact ATL 311, you dial 311, you press option 1. The city has been an incredible partner in standing this up. I will say, you know, we have received requests from every corner of the country to talk about this partnership with 311 because it's a unique partnership that allows there to be an in-person response to callers who are requesting support on something, and is directly driving down the number of those kind of calls that would go into 911. That's really our end goal, right? Is that people get a real clear understanding of when it's appropriate to call 311 for non-emergency services and when it's more appropriate to call 911 because there's an emergency that they need addressed. So in 2021, as I mentioned, we phased in this community referral or community response option. By July of 2021, we were not only citywide for community response, but also for accepting pre-arrest diversions from the Atlanta Police Department. I want to say to that while we have geographically expanded, we are running on a skeleton crew, and that's because it is simply, we have expanded very quickly. Our budget has not expanded to the extent that we need it to be able to really meet the demand that I think we really are poised to be able to do, but we just don't have the staffing to do it. So in this year, our real goal is to just have a better sustainability plan so that we can take what has been a pretty smooth rollout of this partnership and really make it sustainable by identifying how we're going to continue to fund and support alternate responses in the city of Atlanta. That is inclusive of PAD, I would hope, but it is also not the only option, right? We would love to see more resources and more teams that are specialized be able to be deployed through 311, ideally, but in order to continue creating a more holistic response and to continue to pulling some of the pressure back from the police department to respond to any and every concern that community members may be calling about. And then just to note, the planning is ongoing for the Center for Diversion Services. We really see that as the way to ensure that the police department has a 24/7 option so that they are not, diverting people at some points of the day and then booking them into jail for others, when they're literally experiencing the same kind of concerns. So we're a key partner in helping get that up and running, and we'll be also supporting it with on the case management side once it is up and running. Next slide, please. I believe that's slide 5. So I wanted to just take a moment to explain how the flow of services works. And I can, this report is also available as an attachment. I know that it's probably hard to see, but basically, let's say a restaurant manager sees somebody sleeping outside the door of his restaurant. He knows that, they're getting ready to open. He doesn't think it's necessary to call the police, but, maybe he talks to the individual. He says, hey, man, you gotta get moving. The gentleman may, be somewhat distraught or may seem to have other needs. And so this is something that he feels like, okay, I need a little help addressing, right? This community member can then call 311. When he selects option 1, the supportive services team, a member of the supportive services team will answer the phone. They'll walk him through some basic questions, and then if they determine that this would be a good fit for PAD, they'll go ahead and send that request over to our team. At that point, our team will make the assessment about, when a team can go out. When it's something that is emergent, we're really trying to get a team out there as quickly as we can. That is, of course, dependent on our staffing levels. If it's something that, the individual is there every day and we can coordinate with the community members to show up at a time where they would most likely be there, then that's something that we can be a little more strategic about. I'd like to just add that, for us, we're staying in our lane, right? We are not law enforcement. We do not show up to compel anybody to do anything, but we do provide proactive outreach to the individual, and we offer immediate support as well as longer-term, connection to other resources and services. The other piece that we do that, we did not think was as important as it has become, is that we follow up with every caller who leaves their contact information with 311. They're allowed to, they of course can make a report anonymously, but the 311 call takers do a great job of encouraging people to leave their information because it allows us to call back and to let them know, while respecting the privacy of the person we engage, but to let them know that, yes, we made contact with the person. It looks like we're going to be able to support, or listen, that person wasn't there when we showed up. Can you give a call back if the issue occurs again? So we're able to sort of bring the community member into a problem-solving mode and just let them know that their complaint has been heard, that we want to support them. Often we're doing a lot of education with people on the spot about what resources are also available. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to walk all the way through the pre-arrest diversion flow, but just to highlight that diversion is for people who would otherwise be booked into jail at either ACDC or Fulton County. So it is when there is probable cause to arrest. It is when an officer knows that if they do not call PAD, they will be bringing somebody to one of the detention facilities. And so we confirm that when an officer calls us, we will confirm that there is probable cause, and we'll confirm that the officer has determined there's a behavioral health concern or a poverty concern. And then our team will go out and meet the officer on the scene, or the officer has the option of bringing the individual to our offices. And then we'll basically kind of do work the same process that we do when we show up to a community referral. All right, next slide, please. That's slide 7. So just high level, I just want to share some high level numbers from 2021. And we do have a more detailed report that's now on our website, as well as we will be providing the council with monthly reports for each month, which gives a little more detail and year to date in 2022. So in 2021, we accepted 281 diversions from law enforcement, the vast majority of those from APD. We responded to 875 calls through 311. And then we provided emergency shelter to 520 people. which is a substantial part of our budget, just being able to provide that kind of direct support and augment what is currently available in the city of Atlanta in terms of immediate shelter. We do use a hoteling strategy as well as work with other service providers for bed space. We provided 340 people case management, so work with them on their goals at their pace, but just proactive engagement with people to help them, achieve stable housing, get their benefits turned back on, begin working, reconnect with family members, find medical care, find mental health care, all of those types of things. And then lastly, we trained almost 500 officers, so 466 officers, again, the vast majority from APD, that we've done in-person trainings at headquarters with zones sending their folks over. We have a video training on Power DMS. We do roll call visits, and we train in the academy. So we have a pretty robust training approach with APD, which we found is really important to kind of keep getting it in front of officers. Next slide, please. Slide 8. So just to drill down a little bit in diversions, we are seeing that the top diversion charges, or the top charges, I should say, that get diverted to us are listed here. Criminal trespass is the charge that we've received the most diversions for. I'll just note that those are, that is a state charge. People who are arrested on criminal trespass charges are booked into Fulton County Jail, and it carries a penalty of up to 1 year. For somebody who's experiencing a mental health concern, often, we know the research, we know it because our family members and friends have lived it. For some of us, people do very poorly in jail when they are already experiencing a mental health concern. People who aren't experiencing a mental health concern begin to experience mental health concerns while in jail. We know it's not a healthy place to be. That said, for folks who get arrested on issues like criminal trespass, may end up in jail for longer than a year if they are not deemed able to fit trial, if they do not have housing that's lined up. So the ability to keep people out on these kinds of charges and get them connected to better care is a big, it's really important in continuing to reduce jail populations. I want to also just note that we have done some analysis of the arrests that have been made in the last year, and this is a very broad stroke assessment. But we looked at the arrests based on the charges, and then based on the time of day and day of the week, and just at that high level, we've identified about 2,500 arrests that sort of on their face could have been potentially diverted to PAD. Now, that does not take into account all of the factors at play that an officer might be considering. So, we respect that officer discretion to make that determination. But what we do know is that there is about 2,500 arrests that happened when PAD was available for charges that we could typically accept a diversion for that could have been considered for diversion. So I just want to note that that we have a lot more research to do on what ends up getting diverted to us and what charges end up getting, somebody booked into a detention facility. But it is something that I think is really worth us continuing to look at. And we're working closely with the Atlanta Police Department to understand that data more and also be able to bring that forward to you all on a more regular basis so that we can really dig in, particularly within each of your districts. We'd like to be able to provide that level of data to you in collaboration with the police department so that you can really see where are opportunities to increase diversions. All right, next slide, please, slide 9. So in terms of community response, like I said, we responded to 847 referral requests. The vast majority were referring someone else, but we did have calls where people were requesting assistance for themselves. I want to give kudos to the ATL 311 Supportive Services team, and particularly Director Joy Quarles, who has really shepherded this process and now Commissioner Good, who has also championed this work and supported her team to really be very creative with this. What this partnership has resulted in is not only PAD being able to provide in-person response, but has also meant that 311 has increased their capacity to get people to the services that they need. And so they are actually completing housing assessments with people over the phone who call for support, and they're able to reserve a shelter bed real time and let somebody know how to do that. And then they're even able to, sometimes they're able to access, when funds are available, resources to actually get somebody a lift from the location they're at to the shelter bed. That's all happening at the 311 level, but it did not start until we started having these conversations, started putting that out to community members that 311 is a resource, and then, just the creativity and partnership of the 311 team. So we've seen that they're actually directing some of these calls elsewhere that are more appropriate, and just being a resource to the community that much more. Just to note that right now, we are trying to prioritize calls for immediate response versus an outreach response. Our current SLA with those responses are, that for outreach we'd get to folks within 3 days, and that's when we're scheduling an outreach attempt. And for immediate response, we get to folks within 30 minutes. We have had to recalibrate some of how we're tracking that data, but it has sort of ranged from 20 minutes to over an hour. And so we're really trying to continue to work on that data point in particular so that we have the capacity to show up as quickly as possible. That to say, we know that when calls come through 911 for similar types of requests, they are often designated a 20 to 50 minute response time. And so our response time seems to be fairly in line with what is available if they call 911. There are also some requests that we provide resources over the phone. We've talked with mothers who, their adult sons are dealing with a mental health issue. They're very worried. They're concerned. They don't know what resources are available. We may not go out to a call like that. We may start with saying, listen, we're going to give you these resources. Here's the name of the person you talk to. Well, call us back if there's something else that we can do, but why don't you start there? So we're trying to resource people as much as we can in as creative ways as possible, given that we have a very small team. Next slide, please. I also just wanted to share, that we are trying to get more robust with our data around what success looks like for many of the people we serve. About 95% of the people we're currently serving are experiencing homelessness. So, we're really trying to, it's a long process for folks to navigate getting into permanent housing, but we are in this year going to be trying to provide just more data on how quickly that process goes for people. So I don't think that has been our strongest. We haven't told that story very well. I want to mention the story, though, of a couple that we started working with last year. One person was diverted for criminal trespass for sleeping on private property. At the time of his diversion, his wife was actually, she had just gotten out of jail because she had shoplifted, like basic needs items. And so we ended up working with both of them. We were able to get them into transitional housing, get them documentation as well as food stamps assistance, and then they both started working. It was for us, like being able to see that it was really just a matter of like they could not catch a break. And for us to be able to provide that immediate resource to them and then support them navigating all the complicated bureaucracies that we all have to navigate when we're trying to get back on our feet, that really allowed them to get back on their feet, and to actually be in a position to where now they can pay for their own housing. Next slide, please, slide 11. And I'll end here with just to say, it's been really heartening to see the level of community support that we've received, and I think people can always be frustrated when they call through and one and there's a wait, or they call, they called us out and we showed up and the person wasn't there and then they have to call back. There's there can be a whole lot of frustration with just navigating, the system. And what we have heard time and time again from community members who have seen what it means for our team to show up and have been relieved that they don't have to call 911 for an issue they know is not a 911 issue, but that they can call a different city resource, and that our team can show up and really work with somebody. I think, people have given us a lot of grace in that we're very early in the establishment of this work. There's lots of mistakes that, we will make along the way, but I think people are very, very supportive of having an option and continuing to grow that option. So I will end there. Actually, if you go to the very last slide, on slide 12, you'll see our website. We have a lot of background information on our website, as well as our reports. And then there's just a few members of our team that make this work possible. That is it from me, and I'm happy to take questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. And I'll just say looking forward to the expansion of PAD. I'm, of course, the co-chair of the Justice Policy Board that's overseeing the Diversion Center. We've had our first meeting. Looking forward to that work and seeing that center come together. And looking to, as you mentioned, look at the possibility of expanding PAD to a 24/7 operation to expand its reach. So with that, I'll defer to my colleagues for any questions or comments they may have. Colleagues, any questions, comments, well wishes?
That either means I spoke too fast or answered all the questions, but folks are I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to reach out to me directly as well.
Okay, and I did just receive the data, and I'll review that and reach out with any questions I have via email or via phone call sometime this week. But again, going to ask one more time, colleagues, questions, comments. All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right. I'm now moving on to our consent agenda. I will first go over claims with favorable recommendations. I'll make a motion to accept all favorable claims. That is items 1 through 5. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Waits, how do you vote? Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Boone, yes. Councilmember Amos, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos, yes. Councilmember Waits? Ms. Linda, I believe Councilmember Waits sent me a message earlier that she had some issues. She had to step away from the meeting, so we can just reflect that.
Yes,
and
Mr.
please
Chair.
close the vote.
The vote is closed.
We have 6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. Moving on to claims with unfavorable recommendations. I'll make a motion to adverse all unfavorable claims, items 6 through 27. Is there a second?
Amos, second.
Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Bond, aye. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
It is 6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are reversed. Moving on to our one item for first read. Ms. Lindo, can you sound that item?
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's ordinance 2020-1194. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee amending the 2022 Intergovernmental Grant Fund budget, Department of Police, by adding to anticipations and appropriations the amount of $170,779.81 for the 2022 Highway Enforcement of Aggressive Traffic, the HEAT grant from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. We won't hear that at the next committee meeting. Moving on to the regular agenda. Ordinances for second reading. Ms. Lindo, please sound item 2.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 2020-1116. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract with Morris and McDaniel, Inc. for RFP S-122-0026, the captains and lieutenants promotion testing on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department in an amount not to exceed $370,000 for the purpose of providing promotional examinations. All costs are to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. I believe we have Assistant Chief Burton on the line to speak to this item. Chief Burton, are you with us? Ms. Lindo, can you check and see if Chief Burton or a rep from AFRD is with us to speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair. Checking.
This is Chief Burton. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chief Burton.
Yes, thank you. This ordinance is for us to allow the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department to conduct this promotional test for both lieutenant and captain in this fiscal year.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, when is the last time those promotional tests took place? And 2, have we worked with this testing vendor before?
On the first question, I don't have that specific date. I can provide that to you. And yes, on the second question, we have worked with this company before.
Okay. Do you know a general time frame the last time this has occurred? Because I believe this has been an issue that's been brought up before with firefighters not being able to test. So has it been, a year? Has it been 2 years, 3 years since these have occurred? Or
I said right now, just off the top of my head, been roughly 3 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to see these moving forward. So I'll make a motion to approve this. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote? All right, please close the vote.
Yes. The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you, Chief Burton.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Lindo, item 3.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 2020-1117. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a Fifth Amendment to the lease agreement with Puritan Atlanta Propco, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, for approximately 10,469 square feet of office space located at 950 Lowry Boulevard, Suite 16, for the Department of Police Office of Professional Standards to extend the term of the expired lease agreement for a period of 12 months, beginning retroactively from December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022, and authorizing the base rate rent not to exceed $23,991.46 per month, plus a pro rata share of taxes, insurance, and operating expenses, and authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid to accounts listed herein, and waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Shearbaum, would you like to speak to this item?
Good afternoon, Chairman Ellis. Yes, this is extending the lease of our Office of Professional Standards office. They will be moving in this calendar year. We anticipate fall of 2022 to a location on Ted Turner Street, closer to the downtown area. However, as this project has proceeded, the initial timeframes were not, they didn't line up with the move within the calendar year of the current lease. So this is an extension of the lease to allow us to maintain operations at the current locations until we transfer over.
Thank you for that information. And has the contract for the new location been before this body yet?
Yes, sir. It is a city project undertaken by Dean.
Okay, and so is it a city-owned space, or is it also a leased space?
Yes, sir. It is going to be a city-owned space. So once this project's completed, it will be under purview of the city.
That's great. We can find something to spend that almost $300,000 a year on. Just, you know, I call this out when I see it. It's not just APD. It's almost all departments. But just what is the reason that this is just now coming before this body? This is retroactive back until November 30th. I know we've had a administration transition in that time frame from November 30th until now. But I just don't like to see, because technically we're operating out of the space without a contract right now until this is approved. So do you know what the issue was that is just now bringing this before this body?
Yes, sir. I believe there was a landlord change. I believe that the owner of the old lease was bought out, which required the change just before this body today.
All right. Thank you very much for that, colleagues. Any questions? All right. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Amos, how do you vote? All right, please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
All right, that's 6 yeas, 0 nays. Moving on to resolutions. We sound out on number 4.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 22R 3196. This is a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to urge the Atlanta Police Department to establish a task force consisting of cooperating Metro Atlanta law enforcement jurisdiction for the purpose of coordinating a response to targeted burglaries preying on Metro Atlanta film equipment rental businesses and production companies, and for other purposes.
All right, Councilmember Bond, this is your legislation. I'll defer to you.
Move approval.
All right. Motion to approve by Councilmember Bond. Is there a second?
Amos, second.
Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable. Next item, Ms. Linda.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 5. That's 22R 3225. That's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department and Atlanta Police Athletic League to apply for and accept a joint Nita M. Lowry 21st Century Community Learning Center grant in the amount not to exceed $329,896.00 with no matching funds and for other purposes.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Sherbaum, are you still with us?
Councilmember Hillis, is Deputy Chief Sherbaum.
Yeah, this seems pretty straightforward. I just wanted to ask, given this is Police Athletic League related, what is the status of that program, or what has been the status of that program, given the COVID restrictions, et cetera? And if it's, ongoing, or are we looking to get it back up? If it's not, give us a status report, please.
Yes, sir. This morning during Executive Command Staff meeting, it was reported out to Chief Bryant that with the COVID restrictions being lifted, with the numbers returning to safe levels, that we anticipate returning to full programming this summer. And so Chief Bryant will be briefed shortly on the plans of our Police Athletic League and the Community Services Division to be able to start standing those programs back up as we see the impacts of COVID subside.
All right, well, that's great to hear, Deputy Chief, and as well as I've reached out to the administration to get a timeline not only on this, but also opening our rec centers back up, because those are much-needed resources for our youth, and giving them something to do and keeping them out of trouble. So I'm glad to hear that report. So I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
All right, please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you, Chief Shearbaum. I believe that completes the legislation of APD and also AFRD. So thank you all for being on. Ms. Lindo, if we can take 6 through 9 as a block. These are all settlements, unless anyone opposes.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 6 is 22R 3226. That's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Craig Jackson versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County in the amount of $32,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 7 is 22R 3227. That's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company on behalf of Charles Christian Schwab versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $2,100.22 to be charged to, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 8 is 22R 3228. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Michael Jamal Davis versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $50,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 9 is 22R 3229. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the defendant in the case of State Farm Mutual Automobile Company on behalf of Whitney Gray versus the City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount of $6,871.32, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. I'll make a motion to approve all those items. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. I believe that completes our legislative items. Is that correct, Ms. Lindo?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. Colleagues, any general questions, comments, well wishes? Councilmember Boone.
Yes. Chairman Hillis, I would like to, on behalf of MPUH, thank Major Mormon and Major Jackson. They tackled a very important issue, which is the Citco gas station located at 3657 ML King, and the community wanted me to relay that they have seen a lot of changes, positive changes in that area, and they just appreciate the diligence and responsiveness of Major Mormon and Major Jackson, Zones 1 and 4. Please relay that to them. Thank you.
All All right, thank you, Ms. Boone. Glad to hear that. Any other colleagues with questions? I will say we do have a work session scheduled. Ms. Lindo, can you read that information for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There will be a work session scheduled next Wednesday, beginning at 10 a.m. regarding ordinance number 22-01076. This ordinance is currently held on the committee, and it's an ordinance by council members Byron Amos and Michael Julian Bond to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Chapter 106, regarding the curfew of minors. And as the City Hall will be opening, we're working on securing the chambers for that meeting. A public notice will be posted on the line, on our website, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you for that announcement, Ms. Lindo. One last time, colleagues, any questions or comments?
Good meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Bond, and I'll second that. And on unanimous consent of members present, we stand adjourned.